Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of this series on Murder Drones lore. If you are just jumping into this series, I seriously recommend starting from part 1 of this series, linked down in the description below, because everything that we've covered so far is going to matter a lot in this episode. Last time we went through the pilot episode with Uzi sneaking out of the colony, later meeting up with N, accidentally leading N into the bunker and causing all the death and destruction to happen, and later getting abandoned by her father, and then later works with N to defeat J, and then banishes herself from the bunker, and later, with a captive V and N by her side, has a plan to go to Earth and kill all humans. That is just the first episode of this series. We are now moving on to episode 2, Heartbeat, and in this episode, a lot of things are going to start getting more interesting. We see things like the Absolute Solver show up properly for the first time, and we get our first look at N's past, and by the end of the episode, there's going to be a lot of questions that we get answered, but a lot of questions that are just going to remain unanswered. So, to answer all these questions, we got to get into this episode. Let's get into it. This episode doesn't open up with Uzi. It opens with N, and N is non-Copper 9. He's in this massive, fancy mansion, the Elliott Manor, dressed in a full butler suit, serving drinks to a room full of humans. And when he's serving these drinks, one of these humans, a man named James Elliott, tosses his glass onto N's tray without even looking at him. And N catches it perfectly, bows, and walks off like the most professional, little, tiny, cute, goober guy. He's walking through the manor when he bumps into V, who is also dressed as a maid. They both drop everything and their hands accidentally touch, and a spark goes off between them. They both get completely flustered about it. It's actually kind of cute and one of the moments in this show that shows some emotion and everything. And then before anything can really happen, Jay kicks N clean out of the way just to go talk to Tessa. And Tessa is the Elliott's daughter of the family that owns the manor. Now, when N starts standing up, he sees a new drone behind Tessa. And this new drone makes eye contact with N, and suddenly everything goes dark. N wakes up back in the corpse spiral after having a full moment on the floor. Now, this is the first look we get at the Elliott Manor and N's life before all of this. But we are not going to go very deep into that. That's what episode 5 is for. For now, just know that N, V, and J had a whole life before they became disassembly drones. Uzi has been busy while N was asleep, having this mysterious flashback dreams. She found something inside the corpse spiral, a symbol, a skull with a cap and wings on it. And it is a pilot's hat. And N gets joyous because he finds out that he was the pilot of the ship, and then he comes to the quick realization, oh no, I screwed up everything, I crash landed this ship. And they all talk about how they could use the ship to go back to humanity on Earth. Now V notices a symbol on Uzi. Uzi is starting to show the signs of the Absolute Solver in her, and V jokes around and probably actually wants to dissect Uzi and figure out what the hell that is. But V is still chained up, by the way. She's just a prisoner watching everyone around her and can't really do anything. Meanwhile, back at Outpost 3, things are already going terribly wrong and nobody has any idea what is happening. There is still a massive hole in the roof from where N blasted through last episode, and one of the worker drones is assigned to fix it, and his name is Frank. Frank heads up to deal with the hole, and the lights immediately go out because of course they have to go out. Frank asks them to please leave the lights on, but they do not, so Frank signs, gets out his flashlight, and starts trying to figure out how to get up through the hole. Then he hears something. Something moving, something fleshy. It's Jay's core. It survived the entire fight from the last episode and has been sitting down in the dark, quietly trying to rebuild itself the whole time. Nobody checked, nobody went back to make sure Jay was actually gone. They just assumed that she was dead, a classic mistake that every single protagonist makes. A spider-like biomechanical heart device reveals itself, shoots Frank's flashlight straight out of his hand, and that is the end of Frank's story. He came to fix a hole in the roof, and he did not fix the hole in the roof. I feel bad for that poor roof. It never got fixed. The Absolute Solver is now loose inside of the colony, and it starts moving immediately, assimilating more drones, and using holograms to lure people into it. Thad, meanwhile, is outside telling Uzi and Ann of things are going wrong in the bunker and that they should return to try to investigate what the hell is happening. So Uzi, Ann, and Thad head back to the colony to investigate the disappearances. At the entrance, a guard named Ron stops them, and he has something very specific to question Ann about. All the worker drones that he killed in the last episode. And quietly reaches through his pocket and pulls out a piece of paper. It is the most adorable crayon drawing and an apology card that he made by himself to express how very, very sorry he is for all the murders that he has committed. Ron looks at it, tears up, and hangs it on the door, tells Ann, hey, just don't do it again, and let them all in. So Ron, if anyone dies, you are responsible for this. And this is generally one of the funniest moments we see in the entire show, and I will not be explaining it any further because I've already oversimplified it and already explained this so much. Inside the colony, they find a full crime scene. Something has been leaving a strange crawling trail through the corridors, and the drones have been disappearing left and right. Uzi overhears two workers talking about how Khan is currently at a parent-teacher conference about her, and the workers think it's kinda cringy. And asks Uzi if she's okay. She tells him she's fine, and pushes forward. Then the lead investigator drone realizes something horrifying. All the other drones around her at the crime scene are actually holograms the whole time, and she fell for the trap that the Absolute Solver left behind and gets taken away. One by one. It's like they all have never learned a lesson. Stay together as a group. Cut to the parent-teacher conference at Uzi's school. The teacher's just sitting there, implying that Uzi's programming might be damaged, and Khan immediately is trying to defend Uzi completely. And Khan really just tries to bring everything back to doors eventually. Meanwhile, Lizzie asks Doll where her parents are. Doll replies in Russian that they are deceased. Just like that. Flat, no emotion whatsoever. Lizzie just kind of sits there. And Lizzie immediately spots a copy of what looks like herself standing outside the classroom. She really gets excited, saying that she looks gorgeous, and goes back and goes to open the door to let herself in. And Doll uses her silver powers to slam the door before Lizzie can get, killed or something. And this is the first time that we see Doll truly use her abilities. And I forgot to mention, Doll has powers, folks. Doll has powers. It's Doll. So Ann, Uzi, and Thad make their way through the room where they fight the eltrich monster of J. This eltrich J that they fight. Thad finds some crates with strange patterns burned into them, and N points out it's the same symbol that keeps appearing on Uzi's visor. And the text on the crate reads, Absolute Solver. Uzi starts putting it all together. She figures out the Absolute Solver is a backup program inside the disassembly drones that kicks in when they take critical damage, rebuilding their host by assimilating whatever is nearby them. Organic, inorganic, it doesn't matter. Jay's just being built after surviving being shot point blank by a railgun. And then the Eltrich monster shows up, and it does a big ass fight scene, and it uses a hologram in front of Uzi, with Uzi's mother fully formed, and it's Nori in front of Uzi. But Nori's holding the little baby Uzi, and they both have the symbol of the Absolute Solver on them. And the Eldritch Monster is trying to take over Uzi and try to assimilate Uzi into, Jay. And this is one of the really big horror scenes we see. Episode 2 is known as a horror episode, and you can tell from this that it's genuinely a great job of how they made the horror message go through. And then comes through, immediately starts basically sawing off the creature's arms and everything, and the creature, basically starts getting destroyed, and then N stabs the solver device, yada yada yada. It's just a basic fight scene, folks. I'm gonna oversimplify this. But then, it's all over. N reaches out to help Uzi, and Uzi pulls back. She's shaking. She just watched this thing know about her mother and everything, and she basically looks at N and asks, what are you? And N doesn't really have an answer. He just turns away and just walks, just leaves. This guy literally just saved her life. And she just said that, who is he? And he just has to walk away. Khan that runs into the room and finds Uzi standing there, and Uzi just hugs Khan. No words, just that. His men search the area and spot N nearby. N takes off before anyone can really do anything. The end of the episode, the camera finds V still sitting where they were left back in the spaceship. Still a prisoner, except the camera holds that one of the chains is a little too long. They're broken. V has been free this entire episode. She broke out at some point and has just been sitting there the whole time, watching everything play out, pretending to still be captured, just waiting. She's so patient, and she has some kind of plan planned. Then we cut into Doll, sitting alone. She's just holding a piece of paper. A robotic cockroach crawls up her arm. She doesn't even flinch, just sits there, completely unbothered. And the episode officially comes to an end. So, what have we learned this episode? Besides the fact that I'm terrible at explaining things, we learned that in this episode we got introduced to what was life like before the events of the pilot. The Elliot Manor. We're going to talk more about the Elliot Manor when we hit to episode 5 of the series. But second, we learned about Doll's solver powers, and basically Doll is now one of the characters that we have to pay attention to. The third thing is V is free. And she literally could have done things, but she just sat at the spaceship. And fourth, the Absolute Solver has some kind of relation to Uzi because it knew about Nori. There's no way the Solver would have known about Nori if it had not known about, Uzi's past or anything. It is somehow related to Uzi Dorman herself. So that's Heartbeat. Jay's core survived and later rebuilt itself into something truly terrifying as an eltrich monster. The Absolute Solver shows its face properly for the first time, and Uzi and N had their first real falling out. V has been free this whole time and just sitting there with her broken chains like everything's totally fine and trying to support N. And Doll is very clearly hiding something big. Next video, we are going to be covering episode 3, The Promenade, one of everyone's favorite episodes. The tone gets a bit lighter, but don't let that fool yourself. Doll starts making some moves, V gets loose for real, and things start to get very complicated, and we get to see the first sparks and the first elements of the beautiful ship known as Newsy. I'm getting a little bit too ahead of myself, but I made a whole video on Newsy, folks, if you want to be slightly spoiled on some things. Subscribe, folks, if you don't want to miss out another video on this series. Drop a comment down below with your thoughts. And hey, YouTube says you should check out this playlist on my left if you want to see more Murder Drones content. And you should also check out the playlist on the right if you want to see more Murder Drones lore videos. I will all see you on the next one. Remember to stay safe, folks. Panzer out.